Hello, Stephen. How are you doing?
Hi, John. I'm fine. How are you? Nice to
I'm
speak.
not bad. I'm not bad. Not bad. I have questions regarding your album. So, if you permit me, I shall begin. My first question would be for Dustbin Man.
Okay.
Is there a personal incident relating to the lyrics of the song? Because obviously, on the macro, it's about the NHS and various other things. Is there a personal incident for you?
Not as such. I did work as a dustman for a very short amount of time. It's just we hear a lot of rhetoric of stuff where people are very grateful, and people will find that in their own job lives, especially if they're at some kind of work conference. I always think that there's a hint that you're not being appreciated when the boss comes in and starts giving a speech about appreciation. You go, all right, and we haven't mentioned what the pay rises are going to be this year. That kind of thing. But
Okay.
it's the whole thing is about the injustices in our society that we don't appreciate the people that do the most for us, and uh, you know we there's a book that I've been reading of recent, which I have to stop reading it because I'm happy when I read it and I'm sad when I close the book and realise what the reality of life is. But it's called Utopia for Realists, and it talks about things like a universal basic income, but it also talks about the fact that we should be at a time now that we're living in a utopia, that everyone should be okay. We are in a position where everybody can be looked after. Um, and I'm not saying that people should be punished for doing well and for earning a lot of money, but also the people who work really hard should not be paid a pittance. They should not be treated as second-class citizens. And I wrote this song ages ago, and this is what I thought would happen, and it just happened to be released at the time that the clapping on the doorstep happened. Of which again, I don't want to go into too much sort of cynicism about it, but the fact is that you know the clapping isn't going to solve the situation. Though it is beautiful that everyone showed their appreciation.
Sure. Wow. So here we are. Stephen Gilchrist, once a dustman, now the Nostradamus of music. Amazing. Fantastic. Never did I think I'd get such a eloquent and yet comprehensive answer. So let's move on. Thumb in Your Eye, which is, I don't know if you remember my post regarding your album, but that song was one of my favorite ones. I mentioned three of them. I want to ask you a question. Dare I ask who this song is about, and is there a possibility that they might be watching now?
Absolutely no possibility whatsoever. Um, and it's not going out live. Um, the song's not really about the person. The song is about emotion. It's and by which I mean, can we have a show of hands of anyone who's written an angry email? Come on, John, don't lie. Come on, you've written an email in anger. We've all done it, and I've stopped someone from sending an email in anger before. A late night insomniac friend on Facebook saying, "Oh God, I'm just writing this book to my boss. I'm telling him exactly where to sit." And I just went, "Mate, put it in drafts and look at it again in the morning. If you still want to send it then." And without sort of going around the houses too much, the whole point of this song was I was really, really angry. I was really angry with this person, probably too angry, more angry than I needed to be. And I thought, well, you know what? I'm just going to write the words down. I'm going to write them down in my little book, and there we go. And it was the equivalent of the angry email and deleting it and not sending it. We got songs about love. We got songs about you know political things. We've got songs on all matter of subjects. So I thought it was good to actually document it. It's quite funny because when I sing it now, I don't feel that anger. So I don't feel that anger in it or that anger towards that person. To be honest, I captured that moment in time.
Where we were in 2007 as a culture, let's stick to the UK, is very different to where we are now. In terms of things being quite extreme, do you feel any kind of pressure as a lyricist and observer, because you are a great observer, as to what's going on? Do you feel any pressure to maybe in some way talk about what you've observed in say, well, 2020?
I kind of get an idea of something I want to talk about or something I want to write about, and I do it. And I I do take a lot. I think I take quite a bit of care over the words and stuff, and I do draft them a few times. It's funny about the amount of attention Dustbin Man gets as being a sort of politically thing. I'm trying to put across this act of this sort of funny little man and his funny little ideas, and I don't think anyone does or should come to me for their political opinions. But
So what if I do? If I come to you with the need for a political opinion, will you tell me to bugger off? It's not your job. Because I'm sure you've voted before.
I vote every single time. But I'm more than happy to talk politics and discuss the human condition, of which it is very much part, with anybody. I do like discussing things with people, but however, when somebody says something that I'm not sure I disagree with, my most common first question is to them go, "Oh, right, okay, why do you think that?" And the amount of people who then just kind of steer it to something else. What worries me about politics is it's turned into supporting a football team.
Yes. Yes. You're so right.
But also the amount of people that say, "Well, I don't like so and so, but they're better than that other lunatic," and you go, "Why?" And they go, I go, "Now tell me, did you read a convenient headline on a newspaper who sold you an ideology that you could wrap up with less than 60 seconds thought of it and go, yeah, that'll do me?" Or are you being so bombarded with things like sort of flashcards of boo, boo, hiss to them, that's how you formed your political opinion?
You're right. You throw a stone and you'll probably hit somebody that has actually had that kind of philosophy, because we see it all the time dribbling onto our social media feeds.
I think there are people far more qualified than me to talk about this kind of thing. But, I just think I was brought up that you are, in a very non-religious family that sort of preached love thy neighbour and look after your friends and your family and make sure that everybody is looked after. Make sure that everybody, if you do well, you spread that love and fortune as far as wide as you can.
I want to talk about a song which comes before my favourite song on the album, but we'll get to that very, very soon. It's called George and Kathleen. This is track 6. My question about George and Kathleen is this. This song is a correspondence between a couple in an antiquated tone. Do you long for a return to a simpler time, or is that too blanket a statement?
Oh, that's a whole duvet of a statement. The song is based on the correspondence between my grandparents when they were courting.
Oh, wow.
I have the very good fortune to live in a house that my grandfather lived in as a young man and eventually as an adult. When my grandfather passed away I can't remember how many years ago, but it was when I was in my early 20s. My mum came across a box full of their correspondence. They were so adorable. They were lovely. Written in a very innocent tone, but with an underlying sort of, I want to choose my words carefully and be respectful, a sort of underlying desire for each other, and the way that it came out. It was just so, was so very real, but so very polite and so very sweet. And, things like going, "When I see you, I'm going to kiss you and hold you so much." And, "Oh, well, they'd be talking, "Well, we're going down taking the train down to Brighton. Oh, I do hope there's nobody else in the carriage."
Really, that's amazing.
And then it would just be full of like little mundane sort of minutiae about the day, because they wouldn't have texted each other, they wouldn't have just picked up the phone.
Yeah.
Even if they had a phone number, it would have been possibly calling a phone box. Even they not necessarily would have had a phone wired into the house.
Sure.
So they wrote to each other every day because that was their way of talking to each other.
This is so comprehensive and so amazing that you can share this. And I think you're onto something when there is a communication between two people from a time when you can't really immediately just pick up the phone or anything like that. Then you have to really consider what you're saying. And obviously, certain attitudes being as they were, there's a certain caveat that they have to be kind of respectable. So that must be so rich to read upon. There's a song, my favorite song. It's called "I Hate Shop." In brackets, I am shop. Track 7. This is the question. Tell me about the worst job you held before becoming Lord and Emperor of Brixton Hill Studios.
I've had a few jobs, from music teacher to dustman to working in a shop. I worked for quite a stylized technology shop for a few years, and I kind of tried to get a job at this shop because I thought it would be different from working in another shop, and I didn't really enjoy it, and I found it very frustrating. Just described the job I had, and it described how I was thoroughly miserable doing it. But I'd chosen that shop because I thought it would be cool, and it wasn't as cool as I thought.
Should we embrace the idea of being postmodernist deconstruction artists, or should we start to stand a bit more firmly and say, you know what, I've told you a tiny bit about what it is. I'm really not supposed to say anything else.
I think you can pick and choose what your mysteries are. I'm interested in people's processes. It doesn't necessarily mean that anyone's going to do the same thing, but it can be inspiring. It can be inspiring to hear how people do it. It's interesting to find out how our Stevie Moore recorded at home, or it's interesting to hear how things come together in a different way. I don't know, the way that reading about the way Can did stuff. People, music fans want to know about that stuff, don't they? And if you're creative as well, especially if you're going through a lean period, you can get inspired by someone going, well, do you know what? I went out and I bought this little thing, and it went, and I was able to program this little thing, went around, and I ended up recording an album and a half's worth of stuff because of that.
Do we not find that by deconstructing it, that we're kind of involving ourselves maybe more than we have to, and thus taking them down the route of subjectivity that they could have found out on their own?
Well, if I take it back to what I was saying before, if somebody asks you and takes an interest, there's nothing wrong in that. But at the same time, I'm not putting out an album with a 428 accompanying book and how from start to finish. I mean, every time you do something like this, or somebody asks you questions, which is a really nice and flattering thing to be asked to do, people usually ask. I mean, you have asked me questions that lead into that. So there is obviously that, oh, I wonder how you did it. And what's really nice is the fact that to have produced something where somebody has wanted to ask that. The ultimate artist will probably just not even record anything. They'll just perform in their room and no one else can hear it.
Well, I don't know. I don't know, because this is where I kind of come to your way of thinking, in that it's only one idea that you've got amongst many that's in your head, but it doesn't truly exist until it's at least accessible. Otherwise it's not really a dialogue, is it? The song is called "The Day I Burned My House Down." Despite the lyrics, there seems to be a sentimental streak running through the album. Is there a sentimental streak that you're quite happy to exhibit for others? Or have you not consciously thought about this? I don't know.
Finally, you should say sentimentality about that. That song is kind of it's based on truth, so it's about the breakdown of a relationship, a friendship, and it is just summed up in that. The last line in it, if I may quote myself, is all of this to be the one who's won. And it is just like that thing where you just go, is this just a case of winning, and how two people that allegedly cared for each other can start being utter shits to each other. But I do like the song. It's great fun. It's a fun song, but it is just a kind of. It probably proportions a bit more blame to one side than the other in the song, but it's supposed to just go. It's supposed to be about futility, and so like the day I burn my house down, why would you burn your own house down?
Mm.
Why would you cut your nose off to spite your face?
Yeah. Was there a difficulty in deciding where it should go in the album, or was it always going to be the last track?
No, that was always going to be the last track. That was always going to be the last track.
Two more things. Where can people get your album?
You can get my record on all the various streaming platforms. If you want to make a difference to us being able to make another record, though, you can buy it in its physical form on CD, LP, or Cornetto coloured vinyl. There's only a few of those left, by going to onophonic.bandcamp.com or look up Onomatopoeia Records.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for indulging my Terry Christian light interview technique. It's been fantastic.
Thank you for having me.